to the Mixercist.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Mixercist. This week, it's the plugin that everyone's talking about. It's Acustica's new limiter. It's called Lace, and it's out today. We wanted to show it to you. EB, how's it going, man? It's been too long.
Going good, man. Going great. You know, just hanging out in the dungeon. We had the super gray, choose your own nightmare weather for about 3 months, but we're starting to get some sun now. We're starting to get a little temperature. We did have a little bit of unseasonably warm, but still, you can sense that improvement every day.
It's been nice. It's been nice. I was up in the Muskokas yesterday. For those of you who don't know, up there, it's cottage country, as we call it. My daughter lives up there. She's a teacher up there now. So spent the day up just in the forest and the woods. And even though everything's frozen over, just so nice to get out of the gray and get out of the city, that kind of thing. So pretty happy about that. So while you're doing that, let me introduce it. It's a limiter with a whole bunch of really cool options, kind of in the vein of most of the latest Acustica plugins. As a plugin, it can be mean, but it's also subtle. Like the controls don't vary too wild, right? Like you can't have a 1 second attack time or a 10-second release time here. Everything is really quite subtle, but it's got an interesting sound. And I'm always looking for a limiter that will help me finish the job, whether it's podcast or whether it's voiceover, whether it's music of just about any genre, whether it's just piano stuff or maybe a synthy tune or a straight up rock tune. I'm always looking for someone that help me get the maximum volume out of it, but also, of course, protect from the over. So I like a nice fast compressor. And this is something that for the longest time Acustica didn't really do. I've been a big fan of their Ivory 5 limiter for a long time. It works really, really well. It's got very simple controls, kind of like a tilt EQ kind of deal. And it works nice. It's been perfect for me. But I also like things that are transparent and don't add any color. Or if you feel like it, you can swap some color in if you feel like doing some damage with it. So what have you been playing with, EB? What are your impressions so far?
Like you said, there's certainly this is a limiter. It's got a different sound, but it'll still protect you from your overs. And the quality of the sound, I'd argue that I've tried this against some of my go-to brick wall digital limiters, and I prefer this. It's adding a little more weight. It's adding a little more heft. There's so many different models. There's so much character to choose from that you find what you want. Also, it goes a bit beyond just that kind of brick wall thing. You have these distortion models, for instance. So I'm going to be showing some examples where we just clip the hell out of it. And we can hear what it can do on that end. And it's got the clean, which is, even the clean isn't exactly brick wall. You can hear a little bit of that analog action even in most of those presets. And they have smooth, which is even a little bit more analog, and then the character ones. And all these kind of come from their different suites. So coffee, which I guess is like the Chandler stuff, EMI kind of flavor. You've got different magenta, which would be like the manly stuff. And so they've taken the limiters from all their different suites. They've beefed them up with the hyper technology. I think there's a new name now too that they have.
Mm-hmm.
They keep getting better with this compressor technology.
Well, I know all about what you want to know all about. All right, well, listen, why don't we have a look at the plugin? That's what you're waiting for. EB, bring up your DAW. I know you got a session going. Let's check this thing out, see what it can do.
All right, man. Well, here it is, the Lace limiter by Acustica. And we'll just kind of quickly go over the controls. I think people who are familiar with Acustica are going to know a lot of this. Right up the top, you've got your presets, load your presets, save them. You've got 2 slots that you can store 2 different presets in for comparison, A and B. You can move A over to B or copy and paste between the 2. Different options, which doesn't look like there's a lot there yet. That's just basically like an about screen. You've got size here, 1.5 and 2 times. You set it, and then you do have to reload the plugin. I've got to set it 2 times because it's just beautiful that way. It fills up a lot of a 4K monitor that way. You got your threshold here, so if as a brick wall limiter, as you pull that down, it gets louder and starts pushing up against that limit, which is set here on your output, but you can also get into like the peak stop knee down here, and we'll go over that a little bit. Let's, why don't I get some, do you want to hear limiting, or do you want to just get to the cool stuff first, like some distortion? Because they've got a lot of distortion in here, and I don't want that to be overlooked.
Yeah, no, go for it.
Okay, let me load up a distortion preset. And you can see here, I've pulled this way down and I got the threshold cranked. So I just want to blast you right away with what the sound of the distortion is. It does have oversampling, by the way, 2, 4, 8, and up to 16 times. It's got a true peak limiter. I have that turned off for these examples. It's got dither with different like TPDF, psychoacoustic, different choices and different bits. It's even got a 32-bit, which I don't see. You don't see that too often, but I think, if you're in a 64-bit DAW and you want to bounce down a 32-bit file, or if your DAW just has a 32-bit buses and in between plugins and that, this will help you, because there still is a truncation there, even though it's very high resolution. There's still a bit. That probably helps a little bit with that, I'd imagine. Let's listen to the raw drums, and then I'll just turn it on. Here we go. There's different modes in here. You go up here to the distortion modes, and there's like 10 here or something. Because of the oversampling, I think it makes a little bit of a noise when you change models. A little bit of a... There's magenta. And they all have a bit of different flavor, so I'll just switch through a few. Aaron, which is a lot more subtle. I kind of like Wisteria because it actually, you can hear a bit of limiting action as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite as distorted. You can see here on the meter, we're getting 12 decibels of reduction. And it's showing, of course, how much this is a relatively new Acustica. Relatively new Acustica edition here that they've done on their Hyper and their Ultra plugins. I think that's what Ultra is part of the Ultra thing, where they give you this visual display. You can really see what's going on. Up here is different listening. You can listen to the delta, so you can hear only the part that's being compressed or limited. You can hear only the mids, only the sides, or left-right, which we're on right now. You've got RMS and peak meters on both sides. You've also got the peak reduction meter here. We've got some additional indicators down here. Auto, which is your volume compensated for those of us that like the volume matching, as it were, quote unquote. Bypass the whole plugin. Got lifts reading here. These three. Power is cool. Power is a newish control that Acustica have been adding to their plugins lately. It seemed, if you remember about a year ago, 2 years ago, they had the SOA range, that kind of range of activity or whatever it was. I forgot exactly what it was.
Yeah.
This seems to be like an improved version of that. So when you increase power, it actually just does what it sounds like. It compresses more. You hear more of the quiet things. If there's distortion, you hear a little bit more of that. You got attack hold and attack release. Attack hold and release hold. And also attack and release. When I haven't actually played with these much, I'm at the stage where I'm just going through the different models and hearing what they do, but I can imagine if you're mastering something really critically, you might want a little bit of that to help you. Look ahead, super important to not get distortion. If you're just trying to use this as the cleanest possible limiter, add a little bit of look ahead and you're gold. So you're not going to get any distortion, and we'll hear a little bit of that later. Here you've got your limiter knee, and it goes from 0 to 100, and it's just sort of, I don't know if you can see that there, it's just sort of softening the curve. So really that's like a hard knee, soft knee for the limiter function. And you also got the peak stop knee, which, I do like the power knob because it's just, when you think you've got the sound right, just put a little bit more power in there and hear that extra dimension. I got maybe like the XL knob on the Brainworks plugins, maybe. Not so much in terms of sound, but just in terms of that function. It's like, sounds good, but I want that little... These go to 11, right? So look ahead, which is super useful if you're trying to avoid distortion. Like there's some really nice clean limiter modes on this, and which I guess we'll hear. And, it's just distorting a bit when it grabbed that initial transient. And I gave it a bit of look ahead, and that distortion goes away more or less. So that is your friend right there. It just basically shifts the detector forward in time. Down here, you've got your limiter knee, which you can adjust basically between our hard knee and a soft knee. And similarly for your final peak stop, which you can, by the way, you can choose true peak if you want, so it definitely won't go over. You've got a further knee adjustment here. You've got a wet-dry mix, so you can start to mix some of that dry signal back in. It really depends what you're doing, right?
And just a little note in use here is that usually when you get a plugin and there's a bunch of presets, you pull down a preset that you want to try, and it's going to move all of the different dials and settings to create some kind of sound, like something that's great for drums as opposed to guitars or keys. Here, when you choose one of the models, it doesn't change your attack release time, your hold time, or your true peak settings, or any of the power slider, the knee sliders. None of those things are affected. So if you've put in some really extreme settings and then you move off of one of the distortion models and back to a clean model, and you're like, this still sounds really crispy and dirty, what's going on? It's because it doesn't change any of the other knobs or sliders on the interface. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, that's right. And you may notice some of the models have slightly different volumes from each other. And also there's some kind of intelligence going on, because I noticed when I switch models, especially for something really dirty to something clean, it does take a while for that next, if you're doing it hot, if you're playing it and just like switching through models, it takes a little while for the newly loaded model to settle into the volume range that it's going to want to act at. So that's something also that I noticed. Very cool. Not a problem at all. Just something to be aware of.
For sure. I find this is a big change from like the L1 maximizers, or the things that added way too much sibilance and maybe even too much mid-range, or really messed with the signal in a not always great way. So if you're looking for something to help you increase your volume, your overall track or mix volume, this is fantastic, because you have a range of from very clean to smooth to dirty, and you have a simple set of controls to make sure you're controlling those overs. So Eric, did you have some other things to run us through?
Absolutely. Let's check out some more examples here. Let's do some limiting on a guitar. It's just a clean guitar. It's just a DI guitar. I just want you to hear how it's not just like a brick wall limiter for your master, which it can do that, and it can maybe do it even better in a given case than the straight up digital brick wall. Let's hear it with the guitar without, and I'll turn it on. Off. On. Off. And while we're here, remember I was talking about the look ahead. I've got that maxed out all the way to 5, right, to help get rid of some of that distortion. Because if it was on 0, listen to what would happen. Hear that distortion?
Mm-hmm. Right away, yeah.
And it doesn't even need 5, just like 1. It's pretty much gone. Let's do an acoustic master. So right now it's not doing anything. It's engaged. So I guess technically it is probably changing the sound a little bit, but it's not doing any limiting at the moment. Now I'm going to start bringing it up. That's already quite a lot. Okay, here we go. Check this out. Hear that action going on?
Mm-hmm.
And that was with like 6-7 dBs of reduction. Again, here it is at 0. And I'm going to bring it up. So again, you can hear there's some action going on there. That's unlike the brick wall limiter, but it's still giving you that that hard limit where it won't go over. I don't even have true peak engaged, but I suppose I could put that on. There we go. And this is one of the clean ones, so it's got, it's based on the EAR Yoshino gear from the Aaron suite. Really nice stuff. Love it. Let's do another one.
No, I was just going to say, it pumps and swirls a little bit like a good old compressor, and yet that's not really, like I wouldn't put this on a per track basis as my main compressor. Yet it's got some of those models like Nickel, which is their UA 1176 compressor model. And so it's interesting to see what it does. It's almost like a whole new instrument unto itself. It doesn't, like you're kind of maxed out there. You pulled the threshold all the way down. But if you wanted to, you could certainly get pretty nasty with some of the tones that you get out of this thing. So it's been a lot of fun to play with.
Like you said, that because the action's different, and I was getting, I wouldn't do that to a master, right? Typically, I don't use clipping or brick wall limiting like to that degree. But I just wanted to point out that when you do crank it that hard, that the artifacts or the envelopes that you get, they're not going to be like your standard brick wall limiter. On a standard brick wall limiter, I guess I would call it flutter distortion is what you get. And this thing, you can make this thing flutter. You can pick the right models. You can make it do it. But that's not where the beauty is. The beauty is to get that analog vibe happening. Let's do another example. So we've got a rock track here. I've got it set to the magenta, which if you call magenta is the manly stuff. So this is where it came from in the suite. I didn't do too much. I gave it a little bit of look ahead, which we're going to play with later so you can hear what that does. Rock track. I'll just play it and I'll just gradually increase the gain. Here we go. Coming at you like a 99 hurricane. I just woke up and I'm feeling loaded. I can't help it, I'm fucked up in the brain. I just woke up
Now that's pin. But you'd never do that on a master, but let's add some look ahead. Let's go back to having a pin, and I'll add the look ahead and listen to it clean up a bit.
I was thinking I could use a little holiday. I just woke up and I'm feeling low.
Hear that? The snare placement changed.
Everybody needs a little
Go down to 0.
Just woke up and I'm feeling loaded. Not really telling
That's just shredded.
what they say. Ain't nobody
This is still
taking me away.
shredded, but like a little messy. Of course, that's 9 dBs of reduction. Never want to do that in a real life situation to a master. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention, you can just pop the direct number you want to hear, double click. And let's say I wanted 2. Oops. 2. There we go. So you can do that with the numbers here. So yeah, I went through a bunch of them in this. Go figure that they mainly work good on a rock track. So that one's that. Like, what do you think?
That can get really aggressive. Oh yeah, that can get really aggressive. I dig it. Dig it. Oh, that's not good. Not good.
So I got one more example here, which is an electronic track, and I picked a different model, set it up a little different. Let's get that going and check it out. Let's set it so it's not doing anything, and then I'll just bring it up. I'm just really overemphasizing the amount of limiting so you can hear the character and what it's doing. In a master, you don't need that. Or in a master, you'd be like, like here. And you can play around with the attack and release. Let's try another model from the clean section. I really like that wisteria model. I don't know what it is, but I just like it. Anyway.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
The different models, definitely, some of the models bring out more bass or smear the frequencies a little bit. And you can, if you're listening, sometimes you have to pull the threshold down enough to get it working before you hear it. But you can definitely hear the difference some of those models make.
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. I mean, I think what I do like about the GUI, you can see what mode that you're in right there on the main GUI. You don't have to go into the drop-down menu to go, oh, was this on Magenta or was this on Wisteria? Was this on, was the True Pecan or
There's a Neve.
You can see, you can see it all. And so that's good. Maybe they could get a little fancier on some of the graphs and stuff, like when you adjust the knee and stuff, just to make, because I did notice like a lot of times it is moving, but it's really subtle. And I think it is because they're trying to be accurate because it is a subtle adjustment.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't. It's like cranking on this knob, and it's like, yeah, it did move, but just a little bit.
Yeah.
But Yeah, all in all, it's a different limiter, just like Ash was different, and that's like, converter clipping. This is your analog limiter deluxe. If there is a profile in here that sounds like a straight up digital brick wall, I haven't found it yet. All of them have a bit of motion, all of them have a bit of vibe, a bit of harmonic, whatever you want to call it. I didn't do the harmonic analysis on this yet, but that's with compressors, because compressors will give you harmonics. That's one of the things.
Always.
And I'm assuming that some are odd and some are asymmetrical, odd and even, and that's also something you can play with. You can hear the tone change, and that's what I like. It's not just like, if I go from magenta to the Aaron one, the distortion. They're like, no, the whole vibe, it sounds like switching a piece of gear, and to be able to do that quickly in the digital domain. Fully recallable, all that stuff. Oversampling up to 16 times, which is going to use an insane amount of CPU if you do that at 96 kilohertz. But hey, and you got your dithering options. So this really could be your one-stop shop. You got the True Peak built in. The monitoring, we didn't check it out, but the Delta is really cool. Mid and sides, that's something you always want to do when you're mastering anyway. What's the side content doing? What's the mid content doing? What you said about not having a high pass in the detection filter, I can appreciate that, but then I wonder how that would, if you started letting the low end in, how would that affect your whole ability to do a true peak and not go over zero? I don't know if you could do both at once or not.
But at the same time, why give people a % wet dial, but not an HPF of some kind? You know what I mean? Like same difference. So you dial that % mix that band of 50, and your peaks are probably going to get through, right? So there were some, I don't know if they're weird decisions
at the end, right? Unless
maybe
reading the manual is also something.
Well, that's the thing. It's so new. I haven't read the manual yet, which suits me fine. I'm not a manual guy. I'm a twist and listen, but there's probably the answers probably contained therein. Anyway, good to hang with you, EB. Let's do another one soon.
Yeah. Well, we've got, I don't know, we took a whole bunch of time off, but as you know, we don't, we're not here on the daily or anything like that. We're just doing ones that we really like and from companies that we like. There is one that I'm thinking of that I'd like to do soon. Maybe, what if we started doing hardware? What do you think about that?
We could do hardware. We could do soft synths or virtual instruments, things like that. Tons of options.
Soft synth's a good one.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe while we're here, I should mention that Cherry CR78 that just came out like a bunch of days ago. That thing looks so good. I've got CR78 samples, but I don't have anything that's so well put together that would operate exactly the way that the hardware went in. And I have played with hardware in it. It's really cool.
Yeah.
There's like thousands of combinations. You could set the snare to bossa nova, for instance, and the hi-hat to rock.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah. Very good stuff.
Anyway, we're rambling now, but thanks for watching. We really do appreciate all the viewerships.
Thank you guys.
Make sure you like the video, and if you haven't subscribed, just do it and hit the bell for notifications. And that's all I got to say about that.
That's it for this time, my friends. Thank you for tuning in. We'll catch you on the next one.
On the Mixercist.